I know a lot of you guys love and participate in all these spiritual and self-healing practices on your journey. And the pendulum is swinging back the other way now, where you can experience the oneness of the universe and all of these really expansive spiritual enlightenment experiences and still embody your humanness. You're still allowed to be human. Today's guest has practices and offerings specifically surrounding embodiment and allowing our human expression to come through and the divinity that is there. So if you've been having a hard time balancing some of your spiritual growth and practices, then this is the episode you want to listen to. Welcome to the Crystal Zen podcast. I believe our bodies are a living map of the entire universe. All the answers reside within. Remember, you are sovereign, whole, and infinitely valuable. And the best gift we can give to the world is our own healing. Join me as we explore holistic tools, spiritual practices, and paradigms that are shifting the way people experience life, business, and relationships. I love to share education on the most recent medical research and cutting-edge technology on anatomy, neurology, trauma, development, and more to give us a foundation in understanding how to align, utilize, and upregulate our physical systems. Ultimately, this podcast is a witness and support to people on their journey of remembering, an inspiration for all of us to keep going, and a reminder that we are not alone. Welcome to the Crystal Zen podcast, and welcome Ashli.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're here. You're so beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. So
it was really fun when I opened my door today. Me and Ashli haven't met in person yet. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love her.
You're so kind. You're so kind.
It was super fun. So actually what I do first on this podcast for us and our listeners, we just tune in for about 30 seconds.
I love that.
Channel, get quiet. So if you haven't been able to do that for your day yet, if you're folding laundry or if you're in a place where it's safe to do so, not driving, close your eyes. And if you're driving, just kind of take an introspective gaze. Don't try to push and pull your breath for the next couple movements. Notice what happens if you allow. Where does the breath want to come in? Where does it move to in your body? And what happens to your exhale when you just relax the diaphragm? This is a gentle practice in trust and remembering. A remembering that we're held and that our bodies will breathe themselves. And as you continue allowing that, expand that out. Remember how else and where else you're held in your journey by your guides, your angels, maybe people in your life. We'll just feel the parts of your body that are touching the surface beneath you. Maybe imagining it's more viscous or soft. Maybe it's water. And you're just floating and letting the breath move you. Notice and compare the difference between this and 20 seconds ago. If for not any other reason, but just to know this is accessible to you in any moment. And then we'll take a clearing breath and come back. So however you want that to look, if you're by yourself, you can stick your tongue out, shake your hands. If you're in front of someone, maybe more subtle.
A nice smile, gently coming back. I'm here.
Hello. Ashli is an intuitive healer, and I'm wondering if you'll kind of tell us some of those containers, ways, what we can call you, your company, the programs you've started.
Yes. So I'm a soul coach and intuitive healer. I work with individuals who are on the journey of a self-exploration and are trying to find their way, their purpose, and really align with who they are. I do this through one-on-one sessions. I have a membership program where you can come in, you get the community aspect. You also get these weekly nudges, really helping you bridge that like busy, chaotic life and your self-care and creating that habit, along with like mentorships where you work more closely with me in like a 6-month container where we really get into who are you, what are your core values, what are your needs, and how do you create a life that meets that and meets you where you're at, and you know, becoming that creator of your life through soul embodiment. A lot of my work is around soul embodiment and inner exploration. And it's a combination of tuning into the intuition, reading the energy, and feeling that, seeing that, sensing that, as well as like tangible tools of inner child healing, dialogue with your inner self and your protectors, and how do you become one with yourself and be one with the world.
Cool, that's beautiful. I had just said in my last podcast, people like this in our lives are now becoming necessities, not just luxuries. Yes. And I know you yourself were telling me about your coach before this, and wow, if that doesn't make you want to work with Ashli, I don't know what would. I was like, I want to be witnessed like that and find my true soul. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think that word witness is like super important too. We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. We all want to be felt. And so much of working in a container with a coach or a healer is about that. You get to like pull those layers off and just let yourself be seen in the most vulnerable way. And you feel so safe doing that, or you should feel so safe doing that, right? Like the environment should really hold you in that way. And when we do that, we get to meet the tenderest parts of us.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh. Oh my gosh, I feel that. I love that too. And what you call your company that you founded.
Oh yes.
What do you call it?
Modern Harmony Healing.
Modern Harmony.
Yeah. Modern Harmony, because we live in a modern world, right? And so the world's busy, we're all busy. And harmony, how do you find harmony within your healing? Like, how do you find that balance? How do you find that groove? How do you learn to love the process and the journey of it?
Yeah.
That really was inspiration for the, modern harmony in this world.
Yeah, because rearranging things in healing is sort of an entropic process.
Yes.
So to say so beautifully in your beautiful voice and beautiful energy, finding harmony in that sounds really lovely, but I actually think it's imperative. It's a bigger thing than what, it's not just all rainbows and kittens and stuff.
No, I wish we could say it's all rainbows and sunshines when you start this world, but no.
Yeah, it's a lot of disorganization so that you can reorganize things. Yes. So you can see how your energy would be really calming and reassuring in that space. I love that. I wonder if you would tell us a little bit about what you said your intentions were in childhood and how that's manifested into this work as opposed to what you originally thought being a teacher. And if there's any personal details that would color that for us that you're comfortable sharing, I'd love to know more about you.
Yes, I'd love to share a little bit more about me. Well, I always just felt at a young age that I wanted to make an impact in the world, and I wanted to do that through helping people. I know we chatted a little bit before, and I'm the oldest of 7, and I think as an oldest child, like, we're really good at helping people. Like, we're mom's best helper. And so I wanted to just naturally bring that in. I think that's some of the nature versus nurture. So there was the nature of like, this is who I want to be. This is who I feel called to do, along with this is what I know, right? And I thought it would be through teaching. At a young age, I had an incredible 3rd grade teacher, and I was like, I want to be her. She makes me feel so warm and loved, and I love being around her, and I wanted to be that for someone. And that changed and evolved, and you grow up and life happens and you find yourself in different paths. And before I really started my healing journey, I was in a career that was far from the way I authentically would feel like helping people. I was a recruiter, and it was very masculine energy, very number based, like find the person, put the person in here. And there wasn't a lot of the actual, like, let's help them.
Like kind of meet a sales quota? Like a sales?
Yeah, like that. And that was draining me. It was like a moment in my life where I'm like, wait, I have the money I'm supposed to have. I have the house, I have the husband, I have the incredible kids, but I feel so unfulfilled, so disconnected. Like, where is this? Or where am I? Like, I don't understand my place in the world. And I started really diving into self-care, self-love, you know, doing all of the things. And before I knew it, I was like, oh, this is it. This is how I make my impact. It's just in this like sharing of what I've experienced, holding space, like I've held space for myself, and helping people like unfold from that, you know? So.
Wow. I want to double click on that misconception, which you have lived and learned like Gnostically, which I've also come upon, that I'm always pondering about. And when I hear your thoughts, which is, we do start out, like if you go to one of those little kids classes, or I'm a little kids PE teacher right now and have been for the last couple of years, but you get to hear that every little kid says, if not 9 out of 10, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be this, that, why? Because I want to help people. So it's so intuitive in us, but how we do that, I think, is not taught or maybe deconstructed, or the importance of that. Like a firefighter helps people, a nurse helps people, a teacher helps people, like what you wanted to be, right? But once we start ourselves on this healing journey later in life, especially as oldest daughters, we learn that there is no helping people without healing or coming to wholeness and holding those secret and special places for yourself first. And so I think it's just a funny, and maybe it's a correct linear process. Maybe it's the process we have to go through. I want to help people, I want to help people. So maybe it's just a natural evolution. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, and that we have to reframe anything. Maybe we do, I don't know yet. But that learning of wholeness within yourself first, and then how that circles back to how you're naturally, it's like helping people becomes a symptom of that. I have found for me, there's less trying to help other people, and there's more showing up as your authentic self. And then maybe those are some byproducts, and I'm always like so humbled and awe-filled when someone tells me I've helped them, because I feel like my major focus has not been so, like you said, more like a recruiter. Let me help you. Like Jerry Maguire, let me help you. Let me help you. Like, I feel like that is a lot of the energy that I had been participating in. Now I don't feel that kind of energy, but I still have people telling me I've helped them, and I'm just like so humbled. So I wonder what your perspective on that is.
I would agree that part of it is just like the journey. Like, we learned that we help others first, but then eventually there comes this like invitation of like, well, I wonder what it's like to help me. And when we get to that point and we start helping ourselves, then we naturally help others. Like we fill ourselves up, and then we fill others up. But I feel like until you know the contrast of not having that cup filled, not helping yourself first, you don't find your way here. Does that make sense? Like,
yes,
that linear path is, we need that contrast to know what it feels like in order to find our way of like, okay, now I help me and I help others.
And maybe out of necessity, or maybe even out of hitting rock bottom, or even out of like, I can't do this anymore.
Yes.
Then you're put on the path. What have you experienced in your clients? What's pushed somebody to self-healing?
I think a lot of it just gets to that moment you're just tired. You're tired of your life being the way it is. You're tired of fighting. You're tired of pushing. You're tired of like waiting for that pivotal moment where we're supposed to have all this happiness to just like snap our fingers and it's happening. Like, you're just tired of it not feeling good. I think at least that was for me. Like wait,
you're right.
Someone told me that I checked all my boxes and now I'm supposed to be happy, and that's not happening. What's going on? And you get tired of it, and then you're like, well, then let's try something different. This isn't working. So
and that's how we grow. We're stressed. We're like plastic. We get stronger under stress. We find our way.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about what we see sort of in this healing world. Like, what specifically, how did you enter first? Like, what were the practices that you like latched onto?
Books, number one, like, love to read. And so I can't tell you how many books I've read. And in the beginning, I read. That was the pendulum for me. And I love the way how you brought that in the beginning, but the pendulum swung and I was like, I needed all this information. I'm going to read, which served me really well. I learned a ton. Now I realize that, like, we read and we integrate. We read and we slow down and we experience what we're reading, and we don't just jump to the next book. Like, we slow down. But therapy, reading, Reiki was huge for me. I went to a sound healing and he performed just a little bit of Reiki on everyone afterwards. And when I felt that energy, I was like, whoa, what was that? Like, instant calm, peace, centeredness. I was like, I want more of that. Like, how do I have more of that in my life? Let's bring that in. And I found a Reiki practitioner, started seeing her, saw huge changes in my life, and like such a rapid speed that it didn't even make sense to me. And then she was in a session with me, and she's like, your guides tell me that this is your work. Like, you need to get attuned. I was like, I don't know about that. How about I just keep coming? And then every time she'd be like, they're still telling me, they're still nudging me. I was like, okay, well, I'll do it, but I'm only doing it for me. Yeah. Like, I want to just experience. Yeah, for me. And after my first attunement, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I see this. Oh, wow. And those senses, your clair senses come on when you start doing energy work. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And I really just leaned into that. Like, yeah. I want to experience this. I want to channel. I want to do all of these things. And
you do have to do and teach to embody on a deeper level. I believe that if you've never taught or attuned, then you really know it here. But when you teach it, you know it here. So even if teaching was for you and not others. And one thing I find fascinating about your journey is you dove in intellectually with the books, which is a necessary part. But that is just so fascinating that you shared the embodiment of it, where you were like, whoa, wait a second, I went high and now I'm going low. And it felt so good to you, like you knew you needed it right away.
Yeah. After that, realizing that, okay, I want to do this. Life has a beautiful way of, when you say you're ready, it will restructure itself for you, right? Well, for you, but it doesn't necessarily always feel like it's for you. You're like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Well, Q 2020, everything shifted, everything changed. We moved, and I had this opportunity of like, well, I don't have a job. So maybe I'll lean into this, and maybe I will start doing Reiki, and I will start sharing this. And once I started that, it's like the universe said, oh, Ash, you just said yes, here you go. And things would come in, and teachers would come on my path, and books and lessons, and it just has been in like rolling. It hasn't quite stopped. But I love learning, and I love just like experiencing life in different ways. And it just has allowed me to create this business now from that. And
cool. And that felt like a different flow than when you were a recruiter.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You can see the difference, and like, this is what the flow of the universe feels like, right?
Yeah. This is because before it was force. Like, I have to do this. I'm going to be in trouble if I don't make my numbers. Like, I'm not, a lot of the perfectionist energy in that. Like, I need to make my quotas. I need to do this. And with this, it's like, oh, they're going to, my clients are coming to me. They find their way. Like, and you feel, when you're in session with someone and you realize and you witness them have that light bulb moment, or that I'm breaking down breakthrough moment. Yeah. Oh, there's nothing like it. Like, you feel that in them, and there's nothing more fulfilling. Like, I absolutely love it. That is a stark difference than the career I was in. Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, I get to do this.
Yes.
Like, that's a different feeling.
Yeah. Cry,
and, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
As long as you're still feeling that, I think you're good.
Yes. You definitely have that balance. But if you have a ton of financial security, but no enjoyment and fulfillment, like, you'll feel depleted. And I guess I would just rather make sure that that cup's all the way full, and trust that that financial is going to come up with it and support me through it. And because building a business is not for the faint of heart. Yeah. Entrepreneurship it's a lot. It's the most shadow work you'll ever do in your life. Like,
yeah, it mirrors mirrors your inner beliefs because you're the one solely creating it. You can cheat a little when someone else is creating it and hiring you to do something. But yeah, I agree with you. And the sort of pain and joy of it, where whatever you create is fully embodying your light and your shadow, as it should be. It gives you the opportunity, like you said, to embody.
Yes.
Maybe you can talk about that a little bit for us. I have been watching the pendulum swing for a while in my personal life and in my client's life, and I just love to hear your perspective on the importance of staying in your body and the importance of taking, what's your view on taking some of these beautiful spiritual experiences, which I think are necessary for expansion, but like, what's the point in your opinion, and how do we embody those in your opinion? How important is that in your opinion?
Super important in my opinion. I believe really in our existence here as humans is to be a bridge between that spirituality and this tangible physical reality that we live in. And so it's beautiful to have tons of spiritual practices and go out and have these moments of like huge awakening, you know, and you feel the whole world, and then you bring it down and you bring it into your body and into your experience as a human, because you are both. You're a divinity and you're human. And when you can find that balance of like, I see everything is love, and I allow myself to experience in my body that everything is love, and I listen to my body and I know what that feels like. Really, my belief is that within us, we're multidimensional as a human, and we're multidimensional as the spirit. So we're multidimensional in both spaces. And in our internal world, we have this world within us. And when we can tune into that by using our body as our map, it guides us to that internal world where we can meet different aspects of ourselves. Then we can, you know, match the external world with more grace and more poise and more self-assurance and embodiment, authenticity. Embodiment to me is authenticity. Like if you're embodied, you're here, you're in this present moment, you're feeling and experiencing all of it.
Like when you felt that Reiki, when you channel, like the truth out there is love. Like we are that, right? Like we already are complete peace and eternal perspective and love. And so it's not that we came to earth to feel that, because we already are that. And so when we jump out sometimes or have these experiences, we feel that. So it would be very natural to want to escape the body now that we know what's available to us. And like, what's the danger of chasing that all the time?
Well, I think that if you're chasing that all the time, you're doing that chasing. Wanting to live in that space will bring you into not only like searching outside of you, it also keeps you in avoidance from what's happening within you. And part of being human on this planet, at least in my perspective, is to experience that human messiness, to the whole spectrum of the emotions. From like oh, this is really uncomfortable, I feel like I might die from this because this is really intense, to the other side of like, wow, this is the most amazing I've ever felt. This is like love, this pouring through me. Like, we're meant to feel all of that. And if you're searching for that love all of the time and ignoring like the human messiness, you miss out on the other side of that. And then you just don't have that depth and contrast, like, and you just miss the whole point of living in this world. It's to feel both of that. It's to feel all of it, the whole spectrum of it. So finding a way to, yes, you have that spirituality. Yes, you're connected to the love, the divine, all of that. And you respect that you're human and you're messy and you're learning and you're growing, and that this is part of your soul experience. Like, you came here to evolve, and world, our planet, is the perfect school that you could ever embark in to learn and grow as a soul.
Yes.
So, yeah.
The fastest, the most intense I've heard. It feels right, and it's also important to know that that exists. Like, that remembrance and having those spiritual experiences are important for hope and perspective in that end of the contrast. And in the same breath, that remembrance will guide you through. But if you try to make meaning too quickly out of your suffering, or it's coming up and you're grasping onto those out of body sort of reasoning experiences, mental, intellectual sort of states to reason through it, you're shorting the body. And I think that's part of the compression that we start to learn, which also may just be a natural part of it. So do that. So you're learning, so do that, like Ram Dass says, do that for as long as you need to. Avoid for as long as you need to, until the compression or the pain or the suffering or the addiction becomes so debilitating that it forces you into it. You're just craving the quiet, or you're craving the pain, or you're craving the breath work, or you can have that release because it's built up so much. So I guess I'm not saying to curate that specifically, but maybe just build some more awareness around it. And that's one thing I have noticed in myself. I can just talk about my experience authentically, and I can make, you know, extrapolations or from what I've heard from other people or my clients. But that jumping so quickly to that feeling because you know it's there, and maybe reframing that perspective is there for our remembrance and for a guiding light, but it's not for us to jump ship to it, actually. It's sometimes in my life I've jumped to that, how can I like more quickly transmute this into something else, whereas your practices and even the way you've named them is, how can I embody this more fully? That feels like those questions are moving in opposite directions.
Yeah. Well, I think when you're trying to jump, and the way that you're describing it's like when we spiritually bypass or we use toxic positivity, like something feels uncomfortable and I know I can just, you know, reframe this and I don't have to feel it. I can just get through it much faster and it'll be over with. But we do that out of fear. Like that's actually not done from a place of love. We're trying to get over it and past it, not through it. Love knows we can move through it. Love knows that we can experience this and we're safe to experience this. Fear tells us that feels bad. We don't want to feel that. Let's feel something different.
What does embodiment look like? Give us some examples.
Embodiment looks like, to me, it's any moment that you take that deep breath, any moment that you feel into your body, any moment that you pause and you're like, ooh, I just lost my cool for just a second there. What is happening? Where can I feel that? Where is that in my body? Okay, I can make space for it. It can be here. What do you need me to know? What are you feeling right now? And then you receive that answer and you hold that nourishing compassion for yourself. That self energy comes in, and then you get to redo it. Like you get that second moment and that relationship and that challenge. Like you get to experience it differently. It's self. It's leading life from that soul self energy. And that's compassion and curiosity and confidence and calm and connection and creativity. Like it's all of those beautiful things, experiencing life from that state.
That felt really good. Thank you for modeling that. I noticed that it was very question driven. Like the modeling of it was question, question, question. And that's a hard space. Like in yoga, we train to feel something uncomfortable and make your habit to hold still and breathe. Like instead of this is the habit, reaching, you know, grasping the habit you feel, and you want to reframe the habit to, and it was just so obvious that when I asked you to model that, your habit was to question.
Yeah.
So curiosity is a pop word we hear a lot right now, which is good. It's guiding us to a good place, but that was just such a beautiful modeling of breath, and then you were like, question yourself, because that's how you get to know yourself. And one thing I wanted to mention, which I know you know and maybe you can expand on, is when we deal with a lot of people, ourselves included, but we're reframing and helping other people reframe childhood trauma and fear-based behavior, or real PTSD maybe even. And what I mean is real is maybe just like more catalytically induced textbook or diagnosable PTSD, not just like, you know, this happened to me and I'm feeling the ripple effects of it, which are also valid, but I don't call that PTSD. When we're in that, the point I wanted to make is that it's not intuitive to question, and it's not your body's defense mechanism. It's a vulnerability practice. So you do have to get past your natural instincts of defensiveness, grasping, making meaning of things, because that is what keeps us safe. And if we need to be kept safe still, if we're not ready, then observe. And I want to know what you see with your clients and yourself with observing those practices. And then how and when is the questioning accessible to you? How did you get to that? I guess I should ask a more clear question. I'm painting a picture where it's a difficult hill to do what you just demoed for us. So do you have any advice or maybe a story of how you got there?
Well, how I got there maybe will answer the question. It was through the learning and practices of somatic healing along with parts work by Dr. Richard Schwartz. I love his work, and it is a therapeutic model, but it's how do we communicate with our other parts. Most of our time, we're living from our protector part energy. When we're in conflict with someone, there's a protector part. We typically have like a perfectionist or a people pleaser or an inner critic. Like we have all these managers that develop throughout our life, and understanding that and knowing that when I feel that in my body or when I'm reactive and stuff like that, that's a protector part, and it's not my self energy, not my soul, higher self coming through. So learning that is where that questioning comes in.
So you learn that language in practice of meeting your parts.
Yes.
So that when difficult emotions come up or feelings or situations, you have that language and that rhetoric where you're like, I have a relationship with the parts of me. That was a great way to explain it. Because I was thinking, especially, I was like going back to being in the trenches with people when you present that and it's not readily accessible to them. And like then understanding, oh, what Ashli just demoed for us is a pretty advanced, like how she was able to question and get into curiosity and feel that vulnerability so quickly is a practice thing. Like I don't actually think we get better. It's what Brooke, our friend, said. We just get better at feeling. We get better at, like you said, the grace and the poise of when the situation is presented. This is how I'm maneuvering it. It's not that any of that is actually changing. It's just that like, we're here swimming through it instead of maybe taking our sword and slashing at things and people.
Yes, absolutely. We're learning to embody that self energy, and it will move through it. The parts energy goes up in war. Like it's where the guard comes up and the sword comes out. But as far as like working, I think it's important to work with someone who has access to their self energy while you learn how to access yours. Like, so when you're working with a coach or a healer or a therapist, when they can be that calm, centered, curious, compassionate state for you, you will energetically start to attune to that. Like you will learn, even without the conscious thought, of how to access your self energy by watching them do it.
Yeah, it's like the parent modeling it for you that you never had.
Yep.
Or maybe you want to be for your children, but you can't figure out how to embody it.
Yep.
It's like nervous system regulation happens in community and in contact with another person. I do love silence and self-isolation. It's one of my favorite tools for quieting the chaos and being with myself, but it's also a tool to use in conjunction. One phenomenon I experienced early on in starting medicines and retreating in my self journey is the contrast, is the stepping out and feeling the beauty and the love, and then coming back and it having been more contrast. I felt more anger, more uncomfortability, less regulation of myself right when I came back. And I think if I hadn't got to learn, and through not the self-isolation or the medicine tools, but the coaching tools and why I love Reiki, because you're with someone, and a lot of times if that is a safe space for you and a client, you can hands-on with them. And that is a nervous system regulatory thing that a lot of us didn't have as kids. It's expanded. Now I can see back 10 years and be like, that was the tool that brought the embodiment to it. Gratitude is the path from fear to love. What is that path to help some of our listeners paint that path from existential experiences to embodiment, like what would you put on that road?
That is such a good question. What would I put on that road? Like the first thing that comes intuitively is like, feel your body. Like, feel your body. Like, how do you communicate with your body? Do you talk to your body? When you feel that tightness in the chest, you go, oh, hey, what's up? What are you doing there? What's going on? You know, like, but that to me would be like the number one, is slowing down, feeling into the body. And it is a learned skill. Like, well, some of us might be blessed to know how to do that right away, but really the environments that we're raised in, we're not taught to slow down, and not taught that language of like, ooh, what is this in my body? What's coming up? What am I feeling and being with it? But if you can learn how to do that, it will completely shift and change your world, because you'll be present and you'll be listening. You'll feel seen, you'll feel heard, you'll feel witnessed, even by yourself. You know, like you'll be witnessing yourself. So yeah,
I like that. I have a friend that does that really well. He's said that in a couple conversations. He'll say, I feel this in my body. It feels like, and I'll be like, what do you think it is? And he like won't even talk about the intellectual part of it. He'll so quickly be a really good example of going like, it feels like a color here, or a compression here, or like, I feel the energy moving in this direction.
Yeah.
And that's a cool way to talk about it. I like how you said, hey, like as a person, right?
Yeah.
That comes from that part. So what are you doing here?
Yep. What do you need me to know? I can feel you're really scared right now. Yeah. Ooh, how about we take a couple deep breaths? Will that help you feel safer? Like in my internal world, I'm a mom to all my little parts. And I help them by being a mother, mothering them, nurturing them, you know, and it is through that dialogue. Like, I'm always having a conversation with myself.
Wait a second.
It's always happening.
You're saying you have multiple voices in your head.
Yes, I do.
All the time. That's okay. That's normal. If you guys don't take anything else out of this beautiful conversation, take that powerful tool and write that down, or make a point to say, the next time I feel something, I'm going to do what Ashli just did for us.
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about how healing really is a journey and a destination. I know you've probably heard that many times over. Your listeners are in this world, but it truly is. Like, you're not going to get to a point in your life when you're healed. Like, you are healing and you'll forever be healing. But even if you can shift the word healing into evolving, like you're evolving, that's what your journey is all about, is this evolution of who you are at the soul level and the human level. So you won't complete it. And that's the most beautiful thing in the world, because who would want to be done evolving? Like, there's always more room to grow. There's always more to experience in life. But really allowing that to be your experience. And if you're anything like me and a lot of my clients, you probably have a protector part who thinks you need to have this healed by this, you should be better at this, you need to be doing this, and is telling you all of those things. And it's doing that in a way typically to help us find safety. Like, it wants to know and it wants to have all that structure. But if you can encourage it to just let your self energy, again, of like that calm compassion, just moving with the flow, and you're like, hey, this is what we're doing, and this is the safest way for us to do it, is to experience it as this beautiful path and not as a destination, and get it to loosen its grasp some. Then the journey, and it still is challenging, but it's so fun even when it's challenging, when you can see it that way.
That feels like the definition of embodiment, what you just said, because it just feels like that relief. It's hard to describe it. It feels like an exhale. Yeah. And not trying to reach that, setting down that armor of like, we have arrived at these places. And it's the wholeness in the very moment that brings in the miraculous. I know you mentioned you were manifesting generator, which seems imperative for you to be able to embody every single moment, because things can move so quickly for you, and they're supposed to, and you provide so much catalytic energy and beautiful like beginnings for things and projects in this world. On a personal note, I feel like I'm in a recess or a complete undoing. Like last year I was like, I know, and I'm sharing and I'm teaching. And this year I feel like the correct flow for me to drop into is I know nothing again. And I was at a tea ceremony with one of my beautiful friends that you need to meet. We should go to tea with her.
Yes, I love that.
And she's always like, just ask the tea for the message. And the message through the whole ceremony, which is silent, was, if you will set down everything you know, and you knew it, you did know it, it is truth, and it was good what you did. But if you'd be willing to set that down and step into an unknowing again, I will show you something that is new. Because if you say you know it, then I can't teach you. And I found that one of the most difficult steps for my ego this year, because it is valid what I did. And there's some part of me that was saying, if I set it down, then it's wrong and it's no longer valid. But that's not true, actually. It's just set it down because I want to teach you a deeper or newer way of understanding something. And just like our children, like when we're momming, it's like, yes, I did tell you, don't cross the street because it's dangerous. But you've now evolved, and I need you to let go of that fear so that I can show you how to cross the street, how to look both ways. Mommy needs you to go get the mail or learn how to get to your friend's house. Like it wasn't that it wasn't valid, but I need you to be so brave in setting that down. And so I just wanted to share, if that helps anybody else, that my undoing has been we can validate ourselves and our learnings and still step into a lot of the unknown. And so why I wanted to share that was because what you're talking about, what you do, and the importance of embodiment and what you offer in your energy, I can feel it, is the bridge for me, and especially for that space, because I've been in it before and I'll be in it again, you know? It's really easy to embody your manifestation practices in your prosperity, and when you're in accumulated energy, I feel like it's not that far of a jump to go yeah, I'm living this and I'm embodying it, because it feels so good. But these embodiment bridge practices, I think, are the key when you're going through something else. And I know a lot of people probably are right now. I'm curious where you feel where are you on that kind of circle or wave right now?
Well, first I want to acknowledge that your analogy of crossing the street was incredible. I think that was the perfect way to explain it. And when you were talking, it was like, oh, you're invited into wonder again. But just the wondering of what is next. And wondering is so expansive, right? We're so open, so much can come in. So I just wanted to acknowledge that before I shared. For me, I'm definitely in that space of, this is my expansion. I've been in contraction. I'm in expansion now. And I'm working through that, which expansion can feel really scary, just as scary as contraction can. But I'm expanding, and I'm just getting ready to hold more and receive more. That's where I'm at in my journey. So there's that state of wonder, because things are always coming in as a Manny-Gen. We talked about it before, there's this and there's this and there's this, and it's I want to do it all, and I want to do it all right now. But just being in that state, you know?
And it's different. And I think that's why it's good that we're meeting today, because I think it feels so good to have that co-creative difference too, because what I can't hold, you can, and vice versa. When we were talking about Manny-Gen versus some of the people who are built to finish, some of the projectors who are built to be very myopic in their lane and dive deeper. You've got to interplay with that, you know? I feel there's no more time for us to be inauthentic. There's no more time, at least that's what I was shown in my last medicine journey. There is no more time to be playing in this chaos. You've got to stop it. You've just got to be you. And I know you mentioned that. Where's your difficulty in being a Manny-Gen?
It's wanting to start everything and do it all at once. And finishing things. I have a hard time finishing things. I can get things started and get them going, and then there's something else shiny that catches my eye, and then I'm over here. Luckily, I'm married to a projector, so a lot of our life things, we work great together. I will get things started, get them really going, and he can help guide me to that end, like to find that way and keep me structured in that. So that really helps. But yeah, that Manny Gen energy is, life is just so exciting. Like, it's just so exciting. And then I have the 5-1 energy of the 5, which is the leader and the teacher. And then 1, which, you know, I like that solitude, that calm. I love to get into things and understand how everything works.
Yeah.
So much of my journey is just learning.
And then you have to have that hermetic energy to like build, and then you have to go out and do it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Like, I want you to tell me all the things and because if you're in expansion, what are all the things that have come in?
I would say probably right now is one of the busiest times with having so many things going on. One of the things that came in this past year was relaunching my soul embodiment program to kind of the 2 things I talked about in the very beginning, where I offer it as a membership so that it's like really low key, self-paced for everyone with the community aspect, and the mentorship, like creating that simultaneously, like figuring out how to take one coaching program and divide it into 2 different things like that. And then still doing the one-on-one client sessions, being a mom, being a wife, like doing all of those things in one, and then still developing myself. Like finding that balance between all of that can definitely be.
Because the downloads and the channeling come quickly when you're in that too, right?
Yes. The download to make soul embodiment. So I had asked the universe, like, I know I want to make this more affordable and accessible for people. So show me how I can do that. And I was already like doing some things that I thought, oh, maybe this will work, maybe this will work. And I'm in the shower and it downloads instantly. And it's like, and it needs to be ready by the end of the month. It's like, okay, I can do that. And then it was like 3 weeks of just like pouring and getting it ready. It was exhausting, I'm not gonna lie. At the end, I'm like, oh my gosh. But it's out there. It's out there now, you know? But it can, because when the insight comes, I feel so fired up and lit up, like it needs to happen now. That's probably one of the harder parts about a Manny Gen, is like realizing that like it can come in and it can feel that way, but it's okay if I pause for a beat. Like I can still get to it next week, or I can still get to it in a month. Like it's still going to be there, but there's this energy of like almost graspy energy of like needing it to happen right now because it came in. So it means it's now.
Yeah.
You know, but like, hey, now can be now. Like it can be weeks and months. Like it doesn't have to be in this very moment.
It doesn't?
Yeah. Yeah. We've got time. We've got time. Time is irrelevant.
Or do you need like a channel where you need to be able to dump? Like you almost need like an assistant that you can like voice memo, like la 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 la, like they describe it down. You do, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I do want to ask you if there's anything on your heart, like any messages that you think that people maybe need to hear for encouragement, or maybe so they don't feel so alone on the journey, or anything you want to share?
You know, the first thing that really comes through is you are exactly where you're supposed to be in this very moment. Everything that's happening in your life is happening exactly as it's meant to be. Like if you can just find a moment to be really present with that and find some, not just gratitude, but like peace within that. No matter what it is, whether it's relationship struggles or, you know, feeling unfulfilled in your career, or just feeling like life is falling apart, like you're exactly where you're meant to be right now. Breathe that in and be like, yep, this is where I'm meant to be. And there's nothing but possibilities left.
Yes. Thank you. That's amazing. So maybe just in closing, tell us your Instagram handle and your website.
My Instagram handle is Ash_Kunzler_. And you'll tag it in the notes because Kunzler can be a weird last name for people sometimes. And then Modern Harmony Healing is my website. And that's where they can find me. And I'd love to share, you know, connection calls and just get to know them if they want. I offer those for free. Like, believe before you work with someone, talk to them, feel their energy, like see if it's a match. Yeah. And I offer those for free, and they can schedule them on the website, and let's just get to know one another.
Yeah, that's That's so beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you for being intuitive and being in that flow, and beautiful that you're in that expansive state and can offer that support to people right now, and that embodiment. Like I said, I had a feeling when you were sick and we had to reschedule, and I knew that like I had more space this week, and I knew that I wanted those things to land a little heavier. And so I told you were coming, and I was like, I bet she's gonna be the embodiment, like anchor we need, and it's felt so important. So I just thank you for sharing all those things. I feel so grateful to be in your energy today.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel so grateful to be here and sharing, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. Connect with me on Instagram at Crystal Zen Yoga. Subscribe on my website at crystalzenyoga.com to receive tools and practices for your holistic journey, and to be the first to know about offerings, workshops, trainings, and retreats. We live in powerful times that require courage, bravery, compassion, authenticity, community, and grounding. You're not alone. Check out my free content, classes, and meditations on YouTube under Crystal Zen Yoga, and have a beautiful day. Sat Nam.